I would like to welcome our next speaker from Canada, Olivia Bahrami. Olivia is the founder and CEO of Prime Communications, the leading global mobility communications firm. Olivia works with relocation management companies and global mobility service providers around the world, supporting them to convert prospects into clients through strategic, customized, and compelling communications for RFP lifecycle management and presentations. Furthermore, she creates a variety of communications materials for her clients, including articles, email communications, web copy, case studies, and white papers. Finally, Olivia provides consulting services on sales proposals, corporate communications, and marketing strategies. Olivia brings over 10 years of experience in communications, having worked for a global relocation management company as the senior writer, with primary ownership and responsibility of proposal management and external corporate communications for the organization. Using her forward-thinking approach and experience, Olivia produced significant ROI for the organization, resulting in new and retained business. Olivia holds an honors bachelor's degree from the University of Waterloo, is a member of the Canadian Employee Relocation Council, and holds her CERP and CERC Relocation Specialist designations. Thank you so much for joining us, Olivia. We look forward to your interesting talk.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Before we jump in, I'd like to acknowledge and personally thank Vendium Global for putting together this virtual conference and for giving us the opportunity to connect with other thought leaders in the industry. The topic of my talk today will be Shifting Directions, the Road to Entrepreneurship in a Global Pandemic. So let's get started. So the agenda for today and the main topics that I would like to cover include a bit of a backstory about myself and how I got into entrepreneurship, the basics of entrepreneurship, the toolkit you need to get started in entrepreneurship, challenges faced by entrepreneurs, and we will conclude with what now. So a little bit about myself and how I got into entrepreneurship. I was working for a global relocation management company for several years when I got the news that our company at the time was acquired by another competitor. The company then had to make some difficult decisions and take a right size approach. So in 2018, I was left jobless. This unfortunate circumstance was my motivation to get into entrepreneurship. I always knew it was something that I wanted to pursue, but the timing just wasn't right. And I thought, okay, now is the right time for it. So I went for it. I started off freelance writing for relocation management companies, and soon thereafter, I decided to make it formal by opening up my own business as Prime Communications, a communications firm solely dedicated to the global mobility industry. Today, I'm fortunate to support leading relocation management companies and global mobility service providers all over the world with an array of corporate communications services. I genuinely believe that if I didn't lose my corporate job, I wouldn't be where I am today. I leverage my unfortunate situation and my desire to get into entrepreneurship to my advantage, and I never look back. As you all know, the global crisis we are currently in has turned our world upside down. People have lost their jobs, companies are struggling, some companies are going out of business. So I'm here today to tell you that no matter the circumstance, whether you've been laid off, furloughed, or simply want a change, this is the best time to do it. Now, here are some basics that I would like to cover with you today. So the definition of what an entrepreneur is a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. And this is according to dictionary.com. So over to you today. The assessment that I would like you to consider with regard to getting into entrepreneurship. Are you willing to take considerable initiative? Are you willing to take risks with no guarantee for reward? Now let's look at the toolkit to get started in entrepreneurship. These are some of the characteristics that I've come up with based on my own experience and having seen other entrepreneurs succeed and their way of reaching success. So the first one is belief. I really believe that if you don't have the right mindset and if you don't believe in yourself and your idea, how can you expect others to? It's something that has to start with you innately, You have to be driven and you have to believe in your idea and its ability to succeed. Vision. What's your why? What's your niche? What's your unique selling proposition? Identify a product or service that doesn't currently exist in the industry, or if it does, invent a more efficient way of doing it. Think disruption and don't be afraid. Discipline. You'll need time, you'll need dedication, you need ambition and courage. And recognize that business will go up and down. This is obviously the case for all businesses, whether you are a small business or a large business. The idea with discipline is that you need to stay the course. If you're truly committed to your dream and your idea, you need to stay the course, whether you're going through a bad period or a good period. Roadmap. You'll need to devise a roadmap for your business. And you just need to start somewhere. You don't need a fancy business plan to succeed. Personally, I did not have a lengthy business plan. I just started with a framework of what I envisioned for my business and how I was going to get to my goal, how I was going to reach my goal. So it's okay to figure things out along the way. Nobody has a perfect plan or way of getting to success. Network. This is probably a given, but you have to put yourself out there. You have to be inspired by other leaders to see what they do and how they've reached their own success and model their approach. By simply mirroring what others are doing, you can learn a lot from them. And then, of course, what ties in with networking is connecting with people. People don't buy from companies, people buy from people. So building personal relationships with individuals in the industry is crucial. And when you connect with others in the industry, that you can help them and can help you, it results in a win-win situation. And then finally, mentorship. Find somebody that inspires you, whether it's somebody in the industry or not. Look up to somebody that you are inspired by, and always be willing to learn from others to improve yourself. Now we're going to look at the challenges, or some of the challenges faced by entrepreneurs, especially during the startup phase. Although these could be challenges faced throughout their journey in entrepreneurship, not just in the startup phase. So the first one that I would like to talk to you about is comfort zone. COVID-19 has forced us to adapt to our new normal and embrace change. And in a way, it has pushed us out of our own comfort zone. We're all trying to figure things out one day at a time. And it has challenged us to really rethink everything that we know. So my idea around this is that growth happens when we step outside of our comfort zone and pursue our passions and dreams. Or if you don't have a concrete idea, product, or service, this is a good time to start thinking about that and recognize that there are gaps in every industry. Whether you're a relocation management company or a mobility service provider, look at the gaps that exist in the industry and ways that you can improve and bring something fresh and new to the industry. Finances. You don't need a significant amount of capital to get started, nor do you need to invest your savings into your idea. A phone or a laptop and Wi-Fi will do to get started. That's how I actually got started. I didn't have a lot of capital that I invested in my business. It was just something that I knew I needed to start. I needed to start somewhere, and I would figure things out along the way. Now, if you choose to advertise your product or service, you need to determine who your audience is and where they are active. So think LinkedIn, virtual conferences such as this one, industry publications or magazines such as Worldwide ERC's Mobility Magazine. Finding clients. Business development efforts will always be a challenge, at least for me. I'm not a natural salesperson, so I try to figure things out the best way that I can and learning from my mistakes. You can leverage social media, networking, and putting yourself out there as a way to find clients. And you don't necessarily have to be a hard hitter in that regard. You don't have to send cold emails that are very salesy. Think about soft ways of selling and ways to develop relationships with individuals that perhaps will lead to a business development success effort. Now, managing expectations. So here you really need to get to know yourself and your expectations before you invest a lot of time and effort into your idea. So ask yourself, who do you want to help? What do you want to achieve? What's your timeline? And you probably have a lot more questions, but these are just a few questions that you can consider when you first get started. So the other thing I want to mention is that you have to recognize that in business, no matter how big or small you are, you will have good days and bad days. We all do. Personally and professionally, we all go through that. So recognize that that will happen. It's going to occur no matter how big or small your company is or your idea is. Stress. Yes, being a one-person operation is a lot, especially in the startup phase. It's always tough to start out, but and even when business picks up, even when business picks up, and it can become even more stressful at that point. So my advice to you is do your best work when you're most productive. Get to know yourself and what works best for you, and ensure that you eat, sleep, and take time for yourself. Now, a great hack that I would like to share with you to ward off stress is to recite positive affirmations to yourself, whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon or before bed or whenever it is that you feel you need it most. It's a great way to relieve stress. Also recognize that when you are stressed, you need to be kind to yourself. You need to be your biggest supporter, your biggest cheerleader, and just go back to that belief that you started with in entrepreneurship. And then unforeseen circumstances. Beautiful things emerge from crises. So my advice to you is to leverage the COVID-19 pandemic as the perfect opportunity to start your business. Usually what we see with unforeseen circumstances, such as this global pandemic, is that we enter a state of invention, a state of out-of-the-box thinking. And we almost have this newfound confidence or ability to put it out all on the line. So let me ask you this. What's the worst that can happen if your idea or product or service doesn't work out? If you try it, you know where you are. If you don't try it, you have 0% chance of achieving it. So what now? This leads me to my final slide and conclusion to my speech. If you're familiar with Tony Robbins, you're probably familiar with this quote or have seen it somewhere on social media or somewhere else on the web. So the path to success is to take massive, determined action. So I would like to conclude by asking you, are you ready to take massive, determined action? Thank you.